Hello and welcome to the Southend University Hospital podcast for Difficult Conversations, 9 Common Mistakes. My name's Nick Gervin and I'm one of the Learning and OD consultants here in the Trust. Over the next 7 minutes, I'll be talking you through some real pitfalls we often find ourselves falling into when we're trying to have an effective yet difficult conversation. Ready to get started? Okay, let's go. Mistake number 1, we fall into a combat mentality. This allows the conversation to become a zero-sum game with a winner and a loser. But the reality is that when we let conversations take on this tenor, especially at the office, everyone looks bad and everybody loses. The real enemy is not the conversational counterpart, but your own combat mentality. It's down to you to control and recognise when you're going into that compete mode. You can address this with strategy and skill, and a great tool to help you do this is the ladder of inference. Have a Google and always check to see how far up the ladder you've climbed. Mistake number 2, we try to oversimplify a problem. Difficult conversations come with high stakes. We don't want to upset someone and we don't want to rock the boat. So we quite often trivialise or simplify the problem. This means that rather than giving clear, concise messages, well, you're giving some form of bland, wishy-washy statements. Well, no surprises, this doesn't work well for anyone. You see, the person who you needed to address hasn't been given the feedback that will help them improve. And the fact is without that, they're unlikely to change. This will cause even more frustration on your side because you've missed a chance to get your cards out on the table and really make a difference. So when it comes to opportunities to give some really good feedback, we need to make sure that we're clear, factual, and we don't let our emotions get too involved. A really good model to help you do this is the EEC approach. Example, effect, change. This means that you tell the person what's happened, you outline the impact of the incident, and then you outline what you want to change as a result. This keeps your focus really strong and it gives some very clear, non-emotional and assertive messages to the recipient. Mistake number 3, we don't bring enough respect to the conversation. The key to avoiding oversimplification is respecting the problem you're trying to resolve. To avoid the combat mentality, you need to go further. You need to respect the person you're talking to. And also, you need to respect yourself. Making sure that you respond in such a way that you can later be proud of will prevent you from being thrown off course, especially if your counterpart is being overly hostile. Again, the EEC approach means that you can keep your emotions in check and keep them out of the conversation. You'll be completely fair and factual. Mistake number 4, we lash out or we shut down. Fear, anger, embarrassment, defensiveness, any number of unpleasant feelings can course through us during that conversation we'd rather not have. Some of us react by confronting our counterpart more aggressively. Others, well, they do it by rushing in to smooth things over. We might even seesaw between both. Instead, you need to move into the middle. State what you really want. The tough emotions won't evaporate, but with practice, you can learn to focus on the outcome you want in spite of them. Mistake number 5, we react to thwarting ploys. Talks can present an arsenal of thwarting ploys. Lying, threatening, stonewalling. Just because you're trying to move beyond your combat mentality doesn't mean that your counterpart will. But you also have an array of responses, ranging from the passive to the aggressive. Again, the most effective is to move to the middle. Disarm the ploy by addressing it. For example, if your counterpart has stopped responding to you, you can simply say, "I don't know how to interpret your silence." Mistake number 6, we get hooked. Everyone has a weak spot. When someone finds ours, whether inadvertently or because they're hoping to hurt us, it becomes even harder to stay out of that combat mentality. Maybe it's tied to the job. You feel like your department doesn't get the respect it deserves. Or maybe it's a little bit more personal. Whatever it is, take the time to learn what hooks you. Knowing where you're vulnerable will help you stay in control when someone pokes you there. Mistake number 7, and we all do this quite a lot, we rehearse. If we're sure a conversation is going to be tough, it's instinctive to rehearse what we'll say. But a difficult conversation is not a performance with an actor and an audience. Once you've started the discussion, your counterpart could react in a number of ways, and having a script in your mind will hamper your ability to listen effectively and react accordingly. Instead, prepare by asking yourself, 1, what is the problem? 2, what would my counterpart say the problem is? 3, what's my preferred outcome? 4, what's my preferred working relationship with my counterpart? You can also ask the other person to do the same in advance of your meeting. Mistake number 8, we make assumptions about our counterpart's intentions. Optimists tend to assume that every disagreement is just a misunderstanding between two well-intentioned people. Pessimists may feel that the differences of opinions are actually ill-intentioned attacks. In the fog of hard talk, we tend to forget that we don't have access to anyone's intentions but our own. Remember that you and your counterpart are both dealing with this ambiguity. If you get stuck, a handy phrase to remember is, "I'm realising as we talk that I don't fully understand how you see this problem." Admitting what you don't know can be a really powerful way to get a conversation back on track. And mistake number 9, we lose sight of the goal. The key in any tough talk is to always keep sight of the goal. Help prevent losing sight of the goal by going into the conversations with clear, realistic preferred outcomes. Bring with you the knowledge of how you want the working relationship to be with your counterpart, and by having done some careful thinking about any obstacles that could interfere with either. Remember, winning is not a realistic outcome, since your counterpart is unlikely to accept an outcome of losing. So there you have it, the top 9 mistakes for difficult conversations. We fall into a combat mentality, we try to oversimplify the problem, we don't bring enough respect to the conversation, we lash out or shut down, we react to thwarting ploys, we get hooked, we rehearse, we make assumptions about our counterpart's intentions, and we lose sight of the goal. So in conclusion, when we're caught off guard, we're more likely to fall back into old, ineffective habits like the combat mentality. If you're the one initiating the tough conversation, or if a problem erupts out of nowhere, stick to the basics. Keep your content clear, keep your tone neutral, and keep your phrasing temperate. When disagreements flare up, you'll be more likely to navigate to a productive outcome and emerge with your reputation intact. Have you found this podcast useful? There are other podcasts in the Crucial Conversation series, so be sure to check out Vital Conversations, Navigating Difficult Conversations, and Managing Challenging Conversations. All are accessible on iTunes.